Hello everyone, I'm Jay, the investigator. Welcome to Forbidden Files. Today we will talk about the incident Pan Bowen. If you already have an overview of the event, skip to the following time frame for our analysis. If this is the first time you heard about this, then please sit down and start a journey of brainstorm. The story began on August 18, 2019. An anonymous user of Jihu, codenamed Zhao K, told an astonishing incident to netizens. The overview of the incident is as follows. On April 25, 2013, in a high school, Tanggu, Tianjin, Zhao K and Zhao Wen, both 12th grade students, were in PE class. They were playing badminton. Because of the burning sun, they ran to the front of the dormitory building, but someone had already been playing there. That is Pan Bowen, the main character of our story. Pan Bowen was Zhao K's classmate from middle school. They were both the monitors of the English class, so they had a good relationship. After being promoted to high school, they went to the same school, but not in the same class. At that time, it was Zhao Li who was playing with Pan Bowen. Zhao Li is also a key character of this story. Zhao Li went on playing after the chit-chat with them. After a while, the badminton was hit to the corner, into the basement through the ventilation opening. Because it was a match-specific badminton bought by K, and it was expensive, so Pan Bowen volunteered to take it back. Normally, the abandoned dormitory should be locked, but when they got there, the gate wasn't locked, which made them surprised. After opening the door, they went inside and there was this fuzzy smell. Zhao K was a bit afraid at the moment, and he didn't want to go, but Pan Bowen advised to keep going. Zhao Li also volunteered to go with him. So they asked Zhao Wen to look after their rackets, and then they went inside. The light in the first floor was not too dim, but the badminton was in the basement. They got to the end of the corridor and walked downstairs. They found out the door to the stairs down was locked, but a smaller door was open. When they were about to go in, Pan Bowen said he lost his key, and he had to go back looking for it. So Zhao K and Zhao Li went in first. There was a deep corridor, a bit of light at the far end. Zhao K felt strange while walking along the corridor. He felt that the corridor was incomparably empty, like a huge underground parking lot. They were both a bit afraid. So when they both said they should run to the light, the suggestion got a prompt response. Just like that, they were at the end of the corridor. The light was ahead and they stumbled upstairs. They looked around. When they got to the ground, they were near the back entrance of the school. The primary school across the street was already at lunch break, so they went back from the back entrance. When they got back to class, they saw Zhao Wen with the rackets. Zhao Wen said, "I waited for so long but you didn't come out, so I went back first." Suddenly, Kei noticed Pan Bowen's leaning racket wasn't in Zhao Wen's hand, so he asked Zhao Wen where was Pan Bowen's racket, but Zhao Wen asked him instead, who was Pan Bowen, because self-study class was about to begin, so Zhao K didn't argue with Zhao Wen. In the afternoon, Zhao Li came to talk to him first. Zhao Li was very emotional and he almost shouted. Pan Bowen disappeared. Zhao Li told Kei that everyone didn't know Pan Bowen. Kei was at loss and they went back to the dormitory, but the building was shut tight by that time, with a seal on the door. Zhao K went to the PE department for verification. Mr. Jin, who taught badminton, looked through the name list and didn't find Pan Bowen's name. What's more, the teacher was unfamiliar with the name. He went home only to find that Zhao Li got kicked out of the QQ grade group because Zhao Li said a lot of things about Pan Bowen. He also sent hundreds of texts to Kei all about Pan Bowen. Kei suddenly thought about checking the friend list. There was no Pan Bowen. Kei realized that Pan Bowen had never existed except in his and Zhao Li's memories. Zhao K, the author, said that he posted the story on Jihu on 18th August because he remembered it was Pan Bowen's birthday. Later, the author added more memories about Pan Bowen and WeChat history between Zhao Li and him. Zhao Li, who made a scene about this incident, advised the author not to pursue the incident anymore. There would not be results. After the college entrance examination, everyone had their own lives. They never talked about this, but Zhao K wouldn't forget about this incident. Zhao K remembered Pan Bowen went to Xingang 4th Primary School and Tanggu 2nd Middle School. His birthday was August 18, 1996. His home was at the old neighborhood in Xingang Street. He remembered they had planned to play Wise 4 together after the college entrance examination, but he couldn't prove Pan Bowen's existence. Until August 18, 2019, he posted his strange experience on Jihu. A year later, his experience sparked online discussion. So, what really happened to Xiao K? Some psychologists believed he was under great stress, so he suffered from bipolar disorder as a result. Bipolar disorder is usually called bipolar in short. People with this disorder are in a constant state of manic and depression. When they are maniac, they think they can do anything. When they are depressed, they think they are nothing. They can freely switch from "you are all garbage" to "sorry, I am garbage." When they are in the frequent switch state, they can easily interact with the entity they create in their mind. The disease is not uncommon. The main character of the disappearing in Cecil Hotel in 2013, Alicia Lam, was such a patient. In the monitor, she seemed to be talking to someone. Maybe she was interacting with her spiritual entity. These patients usually lack social skills. They suffer a lot because they are unable to release mental stress. So we need to always help those who are in need. Meanwhile, if you feel stressed out, try playing with cats to relax yourself. Maybe Pan Bowen was a spiritual character created by Xiao K to simply say Xiao K had mental illness and Pan Bowen was only his imagination is the most assured and safest explanation. We can believe the world is a nice place where bug does not exist, but what if Pan Bowen did exist? How do we explain the character Zhao Li? Does bug really exist in our world? Yes, it's true. 200 years ago, a famous experiment left an unsolved mystery. People who know about the experiment doubt whether our world is real. It was Young's double-slit interference experiment. In 1807, a physicist, Thomas Young, mentioned an interesting experiment in his philosophy of nature. He put a candle on a piece of paper with two parallel slits. The light of the candle was projected onto the screen through the slits. A series of bright and dark fringes were formed. Those are now known as double-slit interference fringes. 100 years after Yang completed this experiment, that is, at the beginning of the 20th century, with the rise of quantum theory, it was discovered that tiny particles such as electrons can also reflect the characteristics of waves. With the advancement of technology, people could replace light with electrons for double-slit interference experiment. In the electron double-slit experiment, the ejected electrons first went through a board with slits and then landed on a photosensitive screen. At the beginning of the experiment, the electrons through the slits would randomly land on the photosensitive screen. There didn't seem to be a pattern. However, as more and more electrons landed on the photosensitive screen, the bright and dark fringes appeared. There were more electrons on the bright fringes and fewer electrons on the dark fringes. The following 5 pictures show electrons' distribution on the photosensitive screen as time goes by. The image results of the Xinj electron double-slit interference experiment showed that even if only one electron was ejected each time, after a few times, the projection surface would still form an alternating bright and dark image. This showed that every electron seemed to have passed the slits at the same time. I interfered with myself. This is nothing. What people couldn't understand was that if another instrument was used for precise measurement to confirm which slit the electrons would go through, then the fringes would disappear. In other words, the electron seemed to know it was being measured. Once it was measured, it would only go through one slit. Without interference, there would be no bright and dark spots. That is to say, we are observers. The observation changed the whole event. This is the famous observer's curse. When you decide to observe this world, the other world has collapsed. Let's go back to the incident Pan Bowen, Xiao K and Zhao Li from the story. Maybe observers of our world, when they went into the basement and got separated with Pan Bowen, they stepped inside a huge corridor like an underground parking lot. Did they enter a time-space intersection, a parallel universe we've all heard of? When they got out of the dazzling light and opened their eyes to observe this world, they entered another synchronous time and space. When they focused on Pan Bowen, the world where Pan Bowen once existed collapsed. Pan Bowen was like the fringes in the double-slit interference experiment. All the traces of him disappeared in an instant. The explanation seems inconceivable, which made many people doubtful. If Pan Bowen really did exist, it should be himself who disappeared. Why did everyone say they had never seen him? He even disappeared from the graduation photo. Could the actions of Zhao K and Zhao Li in the present change what happened in the past? Could the actions in the present change the history? The answer is yes, and someone did an experiment, still Young's double-slit interference experiment. An event was held in Princeton in 1979 to honor the 100th anniversary of Einstein's birth. Physicist John Wheeler came up with an experiment. It was the famous delayed choice experiment. As I said earlier, once people measured the electron, it would go through the double slits in particle state, otherwise the electron would go through the double slits in wave state. Wheeler pointed out that based on the electron's speed, when it was determined that it had passed through the double slits, a camera was set up on the backboard. What would happen? His words shocked the world. Countless scientists immediately began to design the experiment. 5 years later, in 1984, Carol Alley and colleagues at University of Maryland announced that the experiment had been successful. The result was that after the electron surely went through the slits, a camera was set up on the backboard quickly, and there were the fringes, and vice versa. If the camera was removed quickly, there were interference fringes. Even when we decided to remove the camera, the electron had already passed the double slits. What does it mean? The present action could decide what passage the electron went through in the past. The present action changed the history. This completely subverts the law of cause and effect in our general cognition. Back to the incident, Pan Bowen, Zhao Ke and Zhao Li were like those two cameras. Their absorbing behavior changed the traces that Pan Bowen once existed. The only bug was that Zhao Ke and Zhao Li still remembered Pan Bowen. This explanation sounds scary. It was like Zhao Ke and Zhao Li arrived at the collapsed time and space. Physicist Bohr's explanation sounds even scarier. He believed the world is determined by consciousness. He came up with the complementation principle. His theory goes like this: electron is both a particle and a wave. It has wave-particle duality. But at each particular moment, the electron cannot be both a particle and a wave. It can only be one of them. Will it be a particle or a wave? It depends on whether anyone absorbs it. When no one absorbs it, it is a wave. But once someone absorbs it, it becomes a particle. Bohr introduced the absorbers and their consciousness to quantum mechanics, making it interact with the activity of microscopic particles. Generally speaking, you are going to buy food in the shop tomorrow. If you go tomorrow, it will be a food market. If you don't go tomorrow, it will be a bathing center. Scary, wouldn't you say? For example, you think you know the world behind you. But do you know this? At the moment you turn around, the world behind you has become the world you see 1 second before you see it. It's not like that. The world is not always here, but when you go to see the world, it has become the world you see. But how does this collapsed world change? Does it change in an instant? Or does it wait until the electron goes inside people's eyes and stimulates electrical impulse signals? There is still no reasonable explanation. Physicist Schrödinger once mentioned such a thought experiment. A cat is locked inside a closed box. The cat lives or dies depending on the state of a radioactive atom within a certain period of time. This atom has a 50% chance of decaying. The decaying will be absorbed by the Geiger counter, and the hammer will smash a vial of poison gas through a relay. Then the cat will be dead. According to the famous Copenhagen School of Physics, quantum systems remain in superposition until absorbed. That is, the atom is in a state of decay or non-decay. Then the cat is in a superimposed state of dead and alive before opening the box. Only after opening the box can you decide whether the cat is dead or alive. This is different from the double-slit interference experiment in a microscopic and macroscopic level, but the logic seems to be the same. It seems hard to understand, but we have to admit that maybe Pan Bowen in Zhao Ke's story was in a superimposed state of exist and don't exist. 8 years later, he may still be stuck in the dorm building looking for the lost key. Maybe it was no ordinary key. It was the key to our world. The great philosopher Russell once said, "Many people would rather die than think." It seems to be true. We are more than happy to believe some easy answers. We take it for granted that the story was just Zhao Ke's imagination. All of this resulted from his mental illness. No one has the curiosity to dig into something unusual. We are not willing to think. We either listen to the authority or follow the horn. More than 400 years ago, in the era of Copernicus, no one doubted Ptolemy's geocentric theory. Everyone could see the sun, moon, Jupiter, and Saturn revolving around the Earth. Isn't it only natural, however? The trajectory of the movement was very confusing for a few people. Copernicus, on the other hand, kept his curiosity alive to find out the truth. Eventually, he created heliocentric theory. Perhaps it is this curiosity that really drives our world.